There was once a race of pan-dimensional beings that were trying to understand the philosophies. They spent a lot of time thinking about the meaning of life and trying to understand it. They decided to build a supercomputer that would be able to help them to understand the meaning of life. They built a supercomputer. It was called Deep Thought. And it required millions of years of computations to come up with the answer of what the meaning of life was. Finally, it gave the answer 42. The philosophers were not very understanding of what this answer meant. And when they asked, they were told, well, you really did not explain the question properly. And so they had to make another computer called the universe, or called light, the planet Earth, to compute for many more millions of years to come up with the understanding of what the question was. Now, many ideas have come up as to what Deep Thought was referring to with the answer 42. One possible answer is that it's the American Standard Computer Language for an asterisk. And an asterisk would mean basically whatever random answer you want to put in there, or whatever random thing you want to put in there, it works. Other ideas, I don't know if it means anything different in metric versus American Standard, but that's the way it's understood as one theory. There's other theories that have to do with the being a different mathematical equations, such as prime numbers and set. But basically, it was explained by Deep Thought later in an interview that the number was just randomly determined, which could go along with it being an asterisk. Or it may be that the computer was touching into some super rational understanding that it just happened to be an asterisk, which happened to be random. Well, also a super rational understanding that Deep Thought may have been going into was in the biblical narrative of the Exodus out of Egypt. The Exodus out of Egypt is explained in the book of Numbers, chapter 33, outlines 42 journeys that the children of Israel went through as they traveled through the wilderness. And not only do we learn about the 42 journeys, we understand that each journey had a meaning to it as they went towards the promised land. And in our own lives, we're told that in our own lives, we can follow these journeys also. This is similar to the people down the street that have their stations that they go through as part of the spring festival. And they go through meditations concerning the stations that associate with the Spring Festival, that each one has a value for the individual to learn within. We also learn from the Bible of these 42 stations, and each one has a meditation associated with it. Now, as for myself, I don't really go through these meditations because they're well, one thing is it's very complicated, but mostly because I don't understand the esoteric languages that these meditations are written in, so I don't really follow it. Now, why I don't put more of an effort into understanding it also goes into the next part of Deep Thought's idea, is that the answer really isn't what we're searching for. Therefore, I'm not going to put as much effort into learning the answer. The answer could be literally anything. Answers could, we can say, what is the answer? We could say Coke is the answer, whether it's the diet soft drink, or if it's something that goes up a person's nose, we could say Coke is the answer. We could say a politician is the answer. We could say a religious figure is the answer. The people down the street would say that their religious figure is the answer. What they don't explain is what the question is. The question is what's important. And we can come up, the answers are a dime a dozen. But to spend the effort into figuring out what the questions are, that's where it really becomes serious. In Jeopardy, in the game of Jeopardy, it's so popular because they're not trying to come up with the answers. They're giving the answers. They're giving a whole bunch of answers. They have to figure out the questions that are associated with the answer. That is where it gets deep. It gets real. It gets into our lives, is to figure out what the questions are. And it can take many lifetimes. And that's the journey that ultimately we're trying to figure out, is what are the questions. And that'll give us a realization of the value of the answer. Thank you. No idea how to turn YouTube live off. I'll figure it out eventually. We'll do this.